Live from the Business RadioX studio inside Renaissance Bank, the bank that specializes in understanding you. It's time for North Fulton Business Radio.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of North Fulton Business Radio. I'm John Ray, and this is going to be a fantastic show. Eileen Nebhut is with us. She is with Business Rising. If you think you might need help with your image, your personal brand, this is the show for you. And I want to let you hold on for just a second before we get to Eileen to remind you that Renaissance Bank stands ready to help you if you're a refugee from one of those mega banks. Or you want to be a refugee from one of these large, big, ugly banks that really they don't want to deal with you personally. And if you want a different experience for your business, you would like to have someone that you actually know at the bank, that's the way Renaissance works. They're big enough to handle pretty much any need you can throw at them, but they're small enough to deliver their services in a personal way. RenaissanceBank.com is the place to go to find out more. Renaissance Bank, understanding you, member FDIC. And again, I want to welcome Eileen Nebhut. Eileen is with Business Rising. Eileen, welcome.
Thank you.
It's great to have you. Let's talk a little bit about you and your work. How are you serving folks out there?
Like you say, image consulting services. So that covers a range of things from image coaching to actual execution services for the people who need help with their branding. So yeah, we use technology. We are human powered and tech forward. So we don't use AI. I use AI a lot in the business, but in the back end.
Yeah.
But for client facing, it is human powered. It's a high trust, high vulnerability service that we do. And yeah, we've been in business for a little over 2 years.
Oh, congratulations on that. So before we get into the particulars of the business, let's talk about you and your journey. Why image consulting? Why personal branding for you? The
backstory?
Yeah, the backstory.
It's a combination of things. So I've lived in a lot of different places in the world. I am 6'2", and I bring that up because that's tall in any culture and for men or women. And that plays into this because I have always dressed everyone. I've lived in Africa, New York, London. I've always dressed everyone I knew, and it's not a fashion thing. It's always been a power thing or feel confident thing for them and work. And so I've always had the skill. And what's funny is I cannot decorate a house to save my life, but I can look at someone and know exactly how to put them together. So it's a very niche skill. So, and the fact that I am as tall as I am, it's been a thing for me to deal with my own style and with my own brand and how I present myself, because some people find it off-putting, someone very tall. Mm-hmm. So you have to modify how you present yourself in order to project the way you want to project and feel confident doing it, and also try to elicit the responses that you are looking to get from other people. So all of that combined, I went back to business school in 2019 at Georgia Tech and got my MBA in 2020. And I lost a job, and I had one of those inflection moments that a lot of people had post-COVID. And I decided that I wasn't really getting the joy that I was looking for on the job market. And so I leaned into what am I really good at? What am I really passionate about? And decided to start Business Rising. And at the time was targeting those really amazing women who I'd worked with, who were very good at their jobs, very confident, very successful. And I saw a gap in the market for how they brand themselves. So that's where I came in.
You seem to come at it from a point of view of confidence. I mean, you the way you described being tall as a woman, you described that from a place of confidence, it seems like to me, that you felt comfortable in your own skin early on. Is that?
Oh my God, the opposite.
Oh, okay.
The opposite.
Okay.
I think I was 6 feet in 8th grade.
Uh-huh.
And so if you think back to being in 8th grade, that's taller than the students, the teachers, the parents, everyone. No, thankfully I have tall parents and that really helped, but no, it was very difficult. And especially coming into the workforce, height is one of those things you can't change. It's a fixed entity.
Right.
And men and how they reacted to you when you were taller than they were, that's always been a tricky thing. No, it's been a long journey that I still struggle with to a certain degree. Yeah, it's been interesting.
I was going somewhere there. So that really helps you with a empathy for women and men too, that have their physical characteristics that they've struggled with all their lives, and they're trying to figure out how to present themselves, and sometimes they don't even want to present themselves.
I think you're right. And so I call it the other. Everyone's got things that make them other, that they are either comfortable or uncomfortable with. My height is mine, and I'm very comfortable with it now, but it's taken a while. The empathy is huge in this business because I have clients who don't like their bodies, and we all have tapes in our head about what our parents said to us or how we feel or what a spouse said to us or the weight we've gained since COVID or childbirth, menopause, or whatever it is. So all of those things are part of what you deal with when you are working with someone around their image. And it's real. It's real.
Yeah, absolutely. So you turn that passion into Venus Rising. Talk about that, because you said you started it after COVID. Talk about that coming out of COVID, because there's two issues going on here at the same time. There's just the issue of you're being passionate about this, but then there's also how personal branding changed during COVID and getting people back out of their homes and rethinking their image.
It would be nice if I said I planned all that it was perfectly timed post-COVID. It wasn't. It just was happenstance. You're right. I think during COVID, so many things happened. People were working from home. And after COVID, it wasn't an immediate return to work, but it was hybrid, or it was a combination of things. And there are a lot of my clients whose bodies had changed during COVID. The stores that they used to shop in went out of business. The stores that were still available, the manufacturing happens in a different country, so the sizing is completely different. They don't know their brand or their style or what looks good on them, and much less the new things, that what they have in their closet is either no longer in style or doesn't fit them. And so they're at a loss. And I've talked to so many people who just hate it. Hate's a strong word. They dislike it intensely. The whole thing about image just conjures up fear and angst with what they own and the thought of getting help in that area. So yeah, COVID was it is very timely that this has happened post-COVID, because there is the need.
Let's talk about why individuals need to care about this, because it's easy to hide behind, and I say that in an empathetic way. It's easy to say, I just don't want to go there, but you really have to think about your own personal image and what you project, and what you project is not often what you think you project.
Agreed. And at the beginning of that journey, the resources that I saw available to people were very additive, like personal shoppers or subscription services. So that's what I saw in the market. And that is dealing simply with clothes, and that's putting more clothes on top of people who don't know how to wear what they already own. That was the starting point of my saying, okay, this is a problem area. A large part of it is there's a return on investment of having a strong brand in the workforce. And why people need to care is that it's so closely tied into your executive presence. And there's a great book, Paul Aldo's book on understanding executive presence. And I used to think of executive presence as something you were born with, the presidential voice, something like that. You either had it or you didn't. And a lot of people have heard the term executive presence in reviews where they have been deemed not to have it, and it's never fully explained. And in fact, Paul Aldo goes into the fact that these really are 9 behaviors of executive presence that you have control over, and 3 of them are about you and your bearing. And the other 3 are about the messages you send, and the last 3 are about your relationships. So if we come back to that group about bearing, how you present yourself, we are a visual people. How people see us is the first thing they see about our executive presence. Before they know your schooling, your education, your skills, your years on the job, this is what, comes across first. So it is in the Venn diagram of health, wealth, and relationships and how all businesses come out of that diagram. Venus Rising is a direct offshoot of wealth because it's all about helping people have the executive presence and get that next level job or that board seat or write that book or whatever that is. So it's all about empowerment.
I want to talk more about the issues around image in a second, but let's pivot for a second to Venus Rising and how you work with individuals, the types of individuals that you work with, companies that you work with.
Great. So Venus Rising started out working mostly with executive women. So B2C. I've had one male client. In fact, he is an NFL football player, and he's the son of a friend. I hope to get more male clients. Started out with the B2C with executive women. It since has moved into B2B. I ended up working with Cox Enterprises last year for about 4 months, working with their top executives for a big onstage moment. So that B2B and B2C is my sweet spot. And in the B2B realm, it's expanding in 2025, and that's great. The other areas, the other target audiences that are newer in 2025 are a couple. One is I am talking to Georgia Tech about developing a program for the business school around executive presence and image and how they can leverage that as they go out and get jobs in the corporate world. And as an offshoot or also another area tied to that is if that's the undergrad population or the grad school population, I'm also developing in conjunction with a career coach, a program for new hire schemes in banks and insurance companies and law firms. So I am trying to address that earlier stage person just coming into or coming out of grad school, coming into the workforce and as a new hire, and also then the executives. So how we work with them is there are programs for the graduate school and for the new hire schemes. Then we've got individual services that use tech, like I said, for the executives. And yeah, so it's a mixture of programs and in-person and virtual services provided through the technology.
Okay, so you're working with individuals one-on-one, custom, you might say, and then working with larger companies and organizations.
And their executive teams
Yes.
or soon-to-be executive teams, exactly.
Right, okay. So what are maybe the way to ask this is the biggest misconceptions that executives have about image that you have to dispel when you work with them?
That's when they have come to me, they are more in favor and recognize the importance of image consulting. The ones who don't come to me, so I'll answer it in a couple of ways. There are people who believe that image has nothing to do with it. I'm good at what I do, gotten this far. What does it matter what I have to wear? And to that, I'd say that's real. That's fair for a lot of people. The counterbalance to that, the people in that group who do recognize and do want the help, right now it tends to be executive women, and there tends to be a double standard that will not in the foreseeable future go away. Women are judged more harshly than men.
I'm shocked to hear that.
When it comes to appearance.
We know this.
Right. And
Yes.
as they get more and more successful and they're standing on bigger and bigger stages and they're more and more visible, they are also more scrutinized. Right. And to not leverage their image to help them succeed it's a miss. And I think there's a perception from some people that, that's going to send a bad image. If I care about what I look like, that's going to send a bad image.
Right.
There's all these tapes that people have in their head. And I'm not saying that's the majority, but there is that kind of notion. And I have coaching training, and it's just a matter of talking to them about, okay, what does success look like? Where are you now? What are the roadblocks in between? And can't we leverage this part of it in conjunction with career coaching or other coaching to get you where you want to be?
Eileen Nebhut is with us. She is with Venus Rising. She's the founder, CEO of Venus Rising. You mentioned just the issue of clothing. It's more than just that. It is that, but it's more than that. And explain that.
Yeah. An easy way to explain it is the people who want to buy new clothes, those aren't really our clients. We do that for clients, but that's not our main purpose. Most of what we do has nothing to do with buying new clothes. It's more about digging into the branding. And when I say branding, I'm talking about sitting down with a client and figuring out where the pain points are. Like I just said, where are you now? What does success look like? And often that's, what are your values? What are your career aspirations? Where are you now? In what corporate environment? And let's build a bridge between the two that it works better for you. But in that process, we're also saying, okay, what's beyond this particular corporate environment? What's next? Is it a board seat? Is it a book? Is it a whatever the next step is? So we're trying to help them know their brand and what they stand for and how to incorporate that as a lever to help them succeed. And it's a matter of pivoting a few degrees and setting them up on a right track to think about themselves as a brand and investing in themselves as a brand that has value. And oftentimes women invest their time and efforts in other things before they invest in themselves, their spouses, their jobs, their children, whatever. So part of the coaching is getting them to realize that they are a brand and
right.
They have a lot of value. And this is one aspect of it that's going to become more and more important to them as they age and get more and more successful.
And that they can do that and not feel guilty that they're shucking their responsibility to all these other constituencies in their lives, that it's okay.
Exactly. That it's not shirking and it's not indulgent. There is a real need. And, if success is on their track, this is part of what they need.
And part of this is reducing the confidence gap. It seems to me that it's making those aspirations real is when you change that image, suddenly that book, even though that seems like something totally different, that book becomes a lot closer. That promotion becomes a lot closer in your head.
I'm so glad you brought that up because I interviewed all of my past clients about 10 months ago with the help of an intern, and CEOs, women who sit on multiple corporate boards, middle managers, C-suite, vice presidents, to the person. When I said, I was really interviewing them to get what worked really well, what surprised you, what did you take away, what was your biggest aha moment? To a person, it was confidence. And we think of people at the top of having a lot of confidence, and it's just not the case. They still need the extra boost from what image consulting can do. So confidence has been a major theme.
Yeah. Wow. Such great work. Eileen Nebhut, folks, with Venus Rising. Let's talk about young career professionals. And what are some of the issues that you see in terms of image and young career professionals? And we've only got a 30-minute show.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
That market for us is fairly new. So it's 2025. I spoke to Auburn Business School a couple of months ago. And like I said, I'm going to be working with Georgia Tech and hopefully more. I think you asked young professional, I'm going to start with a grad student. They've come out of school during COVID or just after COVID, and there's a lot of sweatpants and comfort. And the universal dress code for work has disappeared. Starting in the 80s with Casual Fridays, it's been this trend and towards being more casual and more individualistic, and that was accelerated by COVID. These students coming out are in that mindset of, I can dress any way I want to. And then so I think it's a yes, and there are corporate environments. There may not be a universal dress code anymore, but that code is embodied in individual corporate environments or individual sectors that they need to be aware of. AKA, yes, if you're going into tech in Silicon Valley, it's the hoodies and it's the jeans and it's the shoes. But how you do that and how you execute that is still important, even though it's seen as comfortable and casual. It's really helping them understand that their visual impact plays a role in their executive presence, and they're not really used to that phrasing, executive presence. So it's all new to them.
And so this is, I'm assuming, because this is new and because maybe, is it an overstatement to say that this group of individuals doesn't really see the need for this, that their organizations see the need for it, but they don't?
You're talking about the young professionals?
Yes.
I would say that's exactly right.
Okay. Which is one reason why you come at it through the organization, through Georgia Tech or speaking at Auburn or working with a corporation around their new hires. Okay. So let's talk then about how you work through companies, organizations, and how that unfolds. So you're working with individuals that have just been hired around their image. Is that typically the way it works, or is that kind of open?
So it's brand new in 2025.
Yeah.
And how we're envisioning it is that it would be part of the onboarding training that new hires would receive at banks, insurance companies, and law firms.
Got it.
So imagine 50 new hires at an insurance company. They are going to have an onboarding process, and they're going to have some professional training. What we're saying is incorporate this part of the training. Mm-hmm. Here's a different way. Here's a more modern way to look at that training. Mm-hmm. Us do the onboarding that incorporates how the employees are showing up, how they're thinking about their career path, and how they're connecting with the corporate brand and representing the corporate brand such that turnover is less, et cetera, bottom line is improved.
That makes perfect sense. When you work through, you speak at universities.
I speak all over the place. I speak to conferences, to special interest groups, to corporate conferences, and on podcasts and webinars
of course.
And all that. So lots of speaking.
I guess what I'm getting to is, what's the reaction?
So I spoke to Auburn. I spoke to Harvard, Auburn's business school, a couple of months ago. 3 classes back to back. Yeah. And co-ed classes. In the presentation I made, so an hour presentation, I made sure to talk about that thing I mentioned earlier, the Venn diagram, health, wealth, and relationships. And in that talk, I asked the group, where do you think Venus Rising sits in health, wealth, and relationships? And there were lots of, I think it's relationships. And there was a aha moment when I explained that we are a niche off of wealth, and here's why. And we're helping people build their image and build their career. And that was a light bulb moment. And the reaction that you asked about is loads of the students connected with me on LinkedIn, came up and talked to me. What was interesting is more of the men in those classes posted about it on LinkedIn, wrote these big posts about how they had never thought about executive presence. Then they talked about their mother or their father and their career and how they approached their image and how it was presented in a very easy to understand way. So I was really pleased and slightly surprised that more of the men were really vocal on LinkedIn about how much they took from it. So,
that's very interesting.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, that's good stuff. So we've talked about the graduate student, the young career professional. Let's talk about that executive that you work with. Someone listening to this show, they think, I really need the help, and they get in touch with you. How does that conversation unfold?
They would reach out and we would have a consultation.
Yeah.
And that's discovery. I'm trying to figure out what the problem is, what does success look like, what they might need in terms of our help. And sometimes that's image coaching, and that's over Zoom, and they don't know where to begin. They don't know why it's important. They know it's important, but they don't know the first thing about how to execute it. So they're putting their toe in the water, and I'm walking them through how you get from A to Z and why it's so important. So that's one way. Another way is they don't like anything they own. They are older, and that could be the jump from 39 to 40. That could be the jump from 40 to 50, whatever it is, right?
Sure.
But they're a different age, and they feel like they need to represent themselves differently because they have a higher level job. Then we can use a combination of technology and in-person services to manage their wardrobe, manage their looks, and by looks, the app, the Venus Rising app that we use, we can literally, for clients who are traveling the globe or just really busy, we share a calendar with them. We know exactly what's coming up when they're speaking, when they're presenting, when they're just attending, when they're in Paris, when they're in Dusseldorf, and we can put things together from jewelry to the clothes to the shoes, everything. And so they just open up the app and they don't have to worry about the branding of themselves. They can just do what they do really well. So coaching, and then there's different execution services. So we've got a 30-day quick start capsule program. If someone just needs a fast and dirty, they need everything and they need it in 30 days. And then we've got ongoing subscription services where we are literally the brand manager in the background, and whatever comes up, we have monthly calls with them. We know everything in their life, and we handle all of the wardrobe and image and branding part of it.
Wow. Great work. You talked about interviewing your clients. They had some good things to tell you, I'm sure. Let's maybe share a success story that helps illustrate the great work you do.
Yeah. And this, again, I hesitate to talk about the clothes part of it because the clothes is definitely part of it, but it's not the only thing. I had a call with a client who I worked with about 1.5 years ago, and she set up time on my calendar to talk to me last week. And I said, I'm so glad to see you. I'm so glad to talk to you. What's going on? How can I help? And she said, I just wanted to let you know that when I first met you, I was going for a larger role in the Americas, which I got. And she said, now it's 1.5 years later, and I just got a global role, and I'm moving out of the country into Europe. And I said, wow, that's fantastic. And she said, the reason I wanted to set up time with you is to thank you because you were a large part of that.
Wow.
And I just sat there and listened. And she said, you built my confidence to a level that I would not be doing these things if it hadn't been for you. So that was massive, right? That's the kind of feedback you want. Another fun success story is I have a client who is a lawyer, and she is in a very senior role inside a major car company. And when I met her, she was very successful very early in her career. And so she's tall, and she's jet black hair and jet black makeup and dark suits. And she figured out early on that the judges in the courtroom responded to her better if she were dressed almost in a masculine way, suits, very dark, very traditional. Fast forward 25 years, she's at the top of her game. And she saw something that I'd posted on Instagram or something about owning your presence in the workplace and being individual and owning your own values. And she looked down at herself and her wardrobe and thought, I'm so this isn't me. I've got a personality and I don't show it at work. So I worked with her for a matter of months, and to give you the short version, we got rid of all the dark suits. She didn't realize she could wear color. She just thought she couldn't. She thought it was almost like giving her permission to be more herself and to bring her personality into view. And so we introduced color, and anyway, 6 months later, and it wasn't just the color. I'm just fast forwarding all the nitty gritty details, but she called me up and she said, working with you is the best thing I've ever done in my life. And I said, why? And she said, I walk into rooms differently. I hold meetings differently. People react to me differently. She had chastised in a kind of funny way someone on her team, and she was wearing this green jacket, and they call it her happy jacket because she acts differently when she's wearing it. So that's a fast way of saying that she made a point of saying, this is the best thing I've ever done. I bring myself into work, and she's gunning for the next big role, and she's doing it more quickly than she would have otherwise. And it's just a game changer. It's that lever that the women I've worked with, again, I'd love to work with men, all of you men out there.
Yep.
But the women I've worked with, it is that lever that can really be a game changer in being seen, understood, and remembered, which is the whole game of executive presence.
Yeah. Wow. Great work from Eileen Nebhut with Venus Rising. I guess Mars Rising too, right? The men are happy. Men, come on in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's still Venus rising, but men are allowed. Yes.
Yeah, come on in here. Eileen, this has been fantastic. What great work you do. We're just delighted we could shine a light on that work. And a big shout out to Teresa Caro for introducing us.
Exactly.
Yeah,
thank you, Teresa.
Yeah, thank you, Teresa. Let's get to the most important question, which is how folks can find you.
They can find me on LinkedIn, or they can find me via the website, which is venusrisingagency.com.
Terrific. Eileen Nebhut, Venus Rising. Eileen, thanks again.
Thank you.
Hey, folks, a couple of quick things before we let you go for today. If you need a makeover, yes, pun intended, if you're one of those expert service professionals that are selling what's between your ears and you need a makeover in terms of understanding the value that you provide to clients, it's more than what you think it is. And I explain that in my book, The Generosity Mindset, A Journey to Business Success by Raising Your Confidence, Value, and Prices. You can find more details about the book at thegenerositymindset.com. And a big shout out to those that have given me reviews on Amazon. I really appreciate you. Also, just a big thank you. If you're listening to this show, thank you. You and so many of your peers out there have supported us over the years. We're about to celebrate 9 years of North Fulton Business Radio, and we have only gotten this far because of you. You continue to support the show and champion our cause in so many different ways, including like Teresa Caro did, made this connection with Eileen Nebhut. Thank you for that support. We're here to be the voice of business in the North Fulton region and beyond, and you make that possible. So thank you. For my guest, Eileen Nebhut, I'm John Ray. Join us next time on North Fulton Business Radio.